Hello, my name is Shad Wachter. I'm a technology literacy teacher at South Fayette Intermediate School. I teach grades 3 through 5. I'm also the Canvas coach for the intermediate school. Today, in this little video, I'm going to show you how to use Canvas to personalize learning for your students through student agency. Today, I'm going to talk first about student agency, what it is, what it isn't, why you would use student agency, and its importance. And then I'm going to show you how to create a choice board using Canvas. So first of all, student agency. We hear that word all the time, but sometimes we don't know exactly what student agency is. Well, student agency refers to a learning through activities that are meaningful and relevant to learners, driven by their interests and often self-initiated with appropriate guidance from teachers. To put it simply, student agency gives students voice and often choice in how they learn. Now, student agency is not a free-for-all for students. Students still need your guidance, and sometimes too many choices can actually be counterproductive instead of inspiring. Student agency also does not mean a lack of accountability. Students must be able to demonstrate mastery of concepts and skills as they would any other lesson or activity. And finally, student agency is not a replacement for an expert teacher. While students choose their own direction, they will still require course correction along the path to mastery. So the role of the teacher may change from being the sage on the stage to more of a facilitator, assisting students with making choice in their learning. So why is student agency important? Well, we can personalize student learning by emphasizing self-directed learning and student ownership, by offering students increased voice and choice, and through a focus of individual identity, interest, and ability. Student agency gives students a stake in choosing from opportunities provided for them. Their ability to make a decision triggers a greater investment of interest and motivation. To put it in other words, when you give students choice, they are more motivated to learn the content. So, getting started with creating a choice board in Canvas would require you first to start thinking of a unit, a lesson, or an activity that lends itself to student agency or choice. So take a moment to think about that activity, the unit, the lesson in your classroom that you already teach, where you may already offer some choices to students or may lend itself very well to having more choices in how students complete the task, maybe the pace in which they complete the task, or the assessment that they would take at the end of the activity or the lesson. Think about the personal learning needs of your students. Think about your learner interests, prior background knowledge, reading level, and diverse assessment results of your students. Sometimes you might not know this at the very beginning of the year, and you might need to do some different learner surveys in order to figure out what are the learning styles of your students. And then finally, identify some tools and materials or the resources that you're going to be using to teach the content or that students will use to create your product. I have a couple examples of some choice boards used at our school. The first one comes to you from a library class where students are learning about career readiness. Students choose to learn about various occupation from a list of videos or books about careers. And the way this works is that after watching the videos, students complete a short Google form to answer a bunch of questions. Let me show you what this looks like in Canvas. So in Canvas, this teacher set this up, first of all, with directions at the beginning that tells the students to choose a couple of these videos to watch. And then they choose the videos of a career that they most likely want to learn about. In Canvas, she created a table, and then in each of the cells of the table, she simply put the title as well as a video, a link to a YouTube video, so that the students could then watch each of the videos or the ones that they were interested in. Each video is only about 3 to 8 minutes long for this activity, but that all depends on what your activity is. That'll determine how long each of your activities or each of your lessons or videos are. So in this case, there are a plethora of examples that students can choose from. And then after they watch 2 or 3, then they click on a link that links to a Google form. And in this Google form, they fill this out to demonstrate that they have completed the activity. So they put their last name, their first name, the grade that they're in. They type in the name of the career in the video that they watched. They talk about the skill that a person might need in that career. They name a fact that they learned from the career, what type of training is needed, as well as why they think the person in the video chose this career. Now, this teacher chose in her example to only use videos, but she could have also done this along with another activity where students can choose a book to read instead about different careers. But in this case, because all of these examples are already digitized and put on video, it made very much sense for her just to create the choice board with just videos. Another choice board example I have actually comes from one of my technology literacy classes. In my technology literacy class, I teach students how to code using Scratch. Scratch is a block-based coding language for teaching programming. So in this activity, it's called the Build-A-Band Choice Board. There are many different ways that students can add music and sound to a project. In this activity, students can choose to learn about as many different ways as they wish. I think I have about 6 different ways. So each choice on the choice board contains a description, a video tutorial, and sample blocks, kind of like a word bank. And then students can use to add sounds to their projects. In the end, students can choose any method to add the sound as long as they use an event, a loop, parallelism, and sequence in their project, which are all different coding concepts that students need to be able to demonstrate that they understand. So what does this look like in a Canvas course? In my Build-A-Band choice board, I first start off with a little bit of description of the assignment. And I give the instructions to the students as to what they're going to be doing. So they preview and build. I talk a little bit about that there are a lot of different ways that you can incorporate sounds in Scratch, and that they're going to learn about, they could learn about 6 different ways. For their first day of the lesson, they're going to just pick one of these and try it out. So if you scroll down a little bit to the choice board itself, again, I just made a table, and in each cell of the table, I placed a title, a brief description, a video description, if a student needs a little tutorial, and then I also showed them example blocks that they could try for this project. After they try one, then they would add their project to a class's studio, look at somebody else's project, get some inspiration, and then come back to the choice board and add 2 or 3 more different musical or sound ways to add sound to their project. So if I scroll down a little bit further at the very bottom, after they build and refine, then they're going to reflect. And I always like to end a lot of my projects with a reflection question so that the students really think about the lesson and the things that they've learned. So I asked them to take a moment to think back on the process of building up their program. And then answer these reflection questions. So I ask questions like, what did you try first? What did you do next? What inspired you to do what you did? And then what would you like to try next time? And sometimes based upon these answers, I can then tailor make my future lessons depending on how the students answer some of the questions. Additionally, I also have my students take a quiz to demonstrate their understanding of those coding concepts that I talked about before. So they take a quiz that talks about parallelism and sequences and loops and things like that. Another example of a choice board also comes from TechLit. This comes from an activity where my students are creating a holiday greeting card in Scratch. Now, In this project, they can work at their own pace in order to finish the project. They'll have about 3 or 4 class periods to work on this. And there are a lot of different things that students can add to their interactive holiday greeting card. So I give them many little short tutorials that they can try things out. They can dress up a sprite, get an image from the internet to use as a sprite, get an image from the internet to use as a background. They can add music from the internet to their card. They can get music from somebody else's project or get other assets from another person's project to use in their own card using the backpack. In Scratch, or excuse me, in Canvas, this project looks something like this. I start off by asking them questions about maybe what they did in the previous week. So this is actually from week 2 of this assignment. In week 2, I added additional videos to my list of tutorials based upon the reflection questions from the previous week. So the 2 that I added were based upon some of the issues that students were having, like resizing their background. I had a lot of students come up and ask me about how to do that, and so I created a video for them to learn how to resize their background. I also showed them how to import an animated or a GIF image into their background as well. So those are 2 videos that I added to the other videos, but I have a brief description. I talk about the video, and then again, in the end, I ask those reflection questions. And this time, the reflection questions are: how much more do you need to do to complete your project? What's something new that you learned or did in your project? And this gives me an idea, of course, about pacing. It gives me an idea of what they've tried. It gives me an idea of things that I might want to try in the future. So a lot of times I'll have students respond back with things that they want to try. And again, I will create more videos to add to my choice board. So the following week, whenever I create this lesson, I can just duplicate the majority of the lesson and just add a video or 2 at the very end. So here are some more choice board examples that might come from different content areas. Being more content specific, there are different approaches to solve problems, like in math class. Maybe there's more than one way to solve a problem. So you can create a choice board of video tutorials showing the various step-by-step processes to solve a specific type of problem. For those people who would like to offer students an opportunity to enrich or reinforce their learning, you can create a choice board of activities that student can complete or websites that they can explore whenever they're finished with their work. Kind of like what you might put in the back of your room as a when you're finished bin. This is something you can also create on Canvas. You would just include activities that they can be working on. And then finally, assessments. There are many different ways for you to assess student work. And sometimes you might want to offer students a choice in the way that they are assessed. So maybe you can have them demonstrate their understanding or present information by creating a poster or creating a Google Slides presentation, making a video or a diorama or a Scratch project or maybe a simulation. Whenever you do that, you want to make sure that you outline all of the requirements. So like in your choice board, you could put in on your choice board, you could have a table with different cells. And then in one cell, you would have all the information or a link to all of the information they would need about creating a poster. And then in another cell, you could put all the information in or a link to all of the information about how to make a video. You could also include a link to the rubric that you're going to be using in order to score their assessment. All right, so how do you go about doing this? In Canvas, once you've created and gathered materials for your students, kind of like the librarian gathered all of their videos, the next step is to create the choice board. Sometimes it's a matter of going online and finding those things. It might be a matter of scanning in documents or PDF files, or it might be you recording your own videos to put in your choice board. So then start with a set of instructions or expectations. Put those at the beginning so that the students know exactly what they're going to be working on. They can be very short, like in the instructions in the library class, or they can be more lengthy, like the ones in my technology literacy class. Then go ahead and insert a table into Canvas. In each one of the cells in the table, you can add text, videos, links, and images for each of your choices. And then also don't forget to include a rubric or an assessment tool or a set of questions for students to follow or answer whenever they've completed their work. Optionally, you can also ask them to reflect on what they've ask them reflection questions related to the choices they made. This might help you in the future to learn more about your students and also to figure out their learning styles. That way you can make even better choice boards for your students in later lessons and activities. So thank you so much for learning a little bit about choice boards, about student agency within Canvas. I hope you'll be able to use these in your class. And if you have any questions or you would like to explore this further, I would be happy to speak with you. You can always reach out to me at rswachter@southfayette.org. I'm at South Fayette Intermediate School. I'm the technology literacy teacher in grades 3 through 5. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Try these things out in your own class.